Hello YouTube. In a remarkable papyrus from the time of the 12th dynasty, that's about 4,000 years ago, stored in the collections of the Leningrad Hermitage Museum, a tale has been discovered telling about a distant event describing the shipwreck of an Egyptian ship in which the only sailor survived. We'll also refer to him as the navigator, but he'll have another designation later on. The work is at the heart of the adventurous, really adventure genre of world literature, but I think it's more than that. This Hermitage Papyrus number 1115 fully contains the text of the world-famous Tales of the Castaway. This magnificent monument of the ancient Egyptian language and literature was discovered around the 1880 to 1881 by Vladimir Golenishev, one of the first and most famous Russian Egyptologists. Here's how he described it himself. Last winter, I managed to take a completely accidental new discovery in the Egyptian Museum of the St. Petersburg Hermitage, a papyrus, a manuscript in which both the beginning and the end have survived, a manuscript that is almost perfectly preserved, and moreover one that is of absolutely exceptional interest in various respects. Let's look at the tale, and we'll come back to this story more than once. After the shipwreck, he woke up on a strange island, where he met the last intelligent snake. Some fragments of the tale lead to interesting reflections. First, it's the size of the mysterious reptile, and quite amazing. This is how the surviving sailor describes his misadventures. And there are a number of translations, so I kind of combined a few of them together. The trees were cracking, the ground was shaking. When I uncovered my face, I saw that the serpent was approaching me. His length is about 30 cubits. His beard is more than 2 cubits long. His scales are made of gold. His eyebrows are made of lapis lazuli, and his body is curved upward. What an amazing serpent is described in this myth. According to some signs, the reptile is very similar to the mythical golden Chinese dragon with a thick beard and bushy eyebrows. It seems that the ancient East Asian and Egyptian legends about huge reptiles come from a common source. But let's go back to this story. You see, in the story, there is a mention of a certain star that brought death to the entire serpent brood. That's what the last serpent told the man who was the shipwrecked navigator. I lived here with my brothers and children, and there were 75 snakes with my children and brothers, not counting my little daughter whom I got by prayer. And so a star fell and hit them. It happened when I wasn't there. I wasn't among them. I almost died when I found them all in one pile of burnt bodies. This translation basically is from the Snake Island, fairy tales and stories of ancient Egypt. The book was published in Moscow in 1979. I wonder what kind of star it was that burned down 75 huge creatures at once. What an accurate and effective hit, and what a powerful, striking impact. And here, let's remember another ancient Egyptian myth where Sekhmet, the terrible eye of the god Ra, cuts off the head of the Apophis snake, killing it. In this case, in the shipwrecked man's tale, this defeat of the serpent by a star is reminiscent of a real heavenly punishment in the truest sense of the word. Let's go back to the beginning of the tale and focus on the details. So the surviving sailor mentions waves of 8 cubits, and he gives the size of the serpent at 30 cubits. And behold, the wind grew stronger, and the waves were 8 cubits high. And so the mast collapsed into a wave, and the ship was lost, and no one survived except me. That is, judging by the retelling, there can be no confusion in size. The waves are large, and the snakes are even bigger than these waves, at least 3 times. And all this huge snake pit, 75 brothers and sisters. Think about it. The celestial star would rapidly destroy them with one precise blow. A definite conclusion could be drawn. The explosion was really a high-power one. What kind of object hit the den of intelligent serpents? It is very difficult to believe in a random, accurate hit of a stray meteorite on that snake pit. There are similar myths, stories among the other people in which ancient gods or heroes fought with reptiles or dragons. For example, the Mesopotamian myth of Tiamat, in which the god Marduk killed the female dragon Tiamat and created heaven and earth from her body. Or the ancient India legends in which the god Indra defeated the dragon Vritra, who held the waters. By the way, Vritra is a Danava in Hinduism. He serves as the personification of a drought and is an adversary of the king of the Devas, Indra. As a Danava, he belongs to the race of the Asuras. Vritra is also known in the Vedas as Ahi. He appears as a human-like serpent, blocking the course of the Rigvedic rivers, and is slain by Indra with his newly found Vajra. You can find explanations and more references in my videos about ancient India, and quite interesting things that took place and were recorded in Mahabharata and elsewhere. But let's get back to ancient Egypt. Apparently, the beginning of the text has not been preserved. Apparently, it was said that one of the characters, the nomarch, sailed with the military squad to the south, to Nubia. But he did not fulfill the instructions of the pharaoh there and was afraid of the punishment that threatened him. So the papyrus begins with a speech by the worthy companion of the pharaoh. That's the navigator, which I began my story about. Instructing the nomarch, he tells him the story of his journey to an unknown island in the Red Sea, where God reigns in the form of a serpent. The worthy companion calls his story similar to the one that happened to Nomarch. Later, the snake, describing how his brothers and children died, calls it a similar case. And one can only speculate how these completely different stories are similar to each other. Who sent the storm that caused the shipwreck? Describing his sea voyage, the worthy companion insistently emphasizes how experienced the ship's crew was. Really, a very poetic description of the sailors. But no one could predict the storm. So, did the serpent god send it? But why then does the serpent twice ask the companion who he is and how he ended up on the island? Why does the snake call himself the Lord of Punt, the ancient state on the territory of modern Somalia, according to another account, an island in the Nile Delta? We just don't know. The story of the death of serpents or snakes is vague. Moreover, this fragment can be read in several ways. See, the main torment, so to say, for Egyptologists is not that some fragments in certain texts have not yet been deciphered, but that many fragments can be read in 2, 3, or sometimes even more ways, and any of them is suitable from the point of view of grammar and from the point of view of the logical sequence of the narrative. And the meaning in all cases may be different. So the nomarch's bitter mockery of the worthy companion's story is completely mysterious, and I'll get to it. By the way, so that we understand who we're speaking about, a nomarch in other languages, was the governor of a nome, an ancient Egyptian province or district in ancient Egypt. The nomarch was responsible for administering the nome, including levying taxes, dispensing justice, maintaining local forces, and apparently leading expeditions to faraway lands. So the narration is conducted from the first person of the main character, whose name is not mentioned. Being holder of the title worthy companion of Pharaoh, he comforts this nobleman, the nomarch. You see, the nomarch, who has been guilty before the Pharaoh because of the failed expedition, so he is instructed not to stumble when meeting the ruler by this companion, the navigator. For a man's salvation is in his mouth, for the word awakens condensation. For encouragement, the companion, former navigator, tells his story. So he was on his way to the copper mines on behalf of the Pharaoh, probably in the Sinai Peninsula, where he was going to return by the way of the Red Sea. This protagonist, the navigator, with a crew of 120 sailors, sailed on a large ship, 120 cubits in size. I understand it's about 60 meters long, and 40 cubits or 20 meters wide. And behold, a storm broke while they were at sea, and they didn't have time to reach the land sailing. And behold, the wind grew stronger, and the waves were 8 cubits high. And so the mast collapsed into the wave, and the ship was lost, and none of the sailors survived. Here's the story. I was the only one who was thrown onto the island by the waves of the sea. For 3 days, the protagonist was in a borderline state, so to say, exhausted, and then, on the 4th day, he went to look for food and found an excess of food. When he was satisfied, he sacrificed fire to the gods, after which thunder rang out, and the owner, or the lord of the island, appeared, a huge serpent. Its length is 30 cubits, his beard is more than 2 cubits long, his scales are made of gold, and his eyebrows are made of lapis lazuli. His body is bent upwards. He asks the uninvited guests why he came to this deserted island, and even threatens to burn him with a fiery breath if he refuses to tell the truth. But the navigator is so terrified that he cannot answer. Then the serpent carries him in its mouth to its dwelling and carefully lays the navigator on the ground. After listening to the true story, the snake or serpent tearfully tells that 75 snakes used to live on this island of Ka. He, his brothers, and their children, as well as a little daughter obtained by prayer. And so a star fell and hit them. It happened when he wasn't there. He wasn't among them. He almost died when he found them all in one pile of burnt bodies. Touched, the navigator promised to tell the Pharaoh about everything that had happened so that he would reward the serpent. In response, the serpent laughed and said that as the lord of Punt, he himself owns all the mirth, and his island is full of all kinds of benefits. All the serpent would like is for his story to be passed on to other people. He advises the navigator to return to Egypt, but never to look for the island again, as it will soon be swallowed up by water. 4 months later, as the serpent said, Pharaoh's ship sailed, apparently to the island. The people from this ship, acquaintances of the main character, took the shipwrecked man on board, and the serpent richly endowed him with incense, precious bone, and other curiosities. He gave me a load of myrrh, Ibai, Hecken, Nubenda, Yesanta, gave me ink for eyes, giraffe tails, a large pile of incense, elephant tusks, hunting dogs, monkeys, and all kinds of beautiful goods. As predicted by the serpent, 2 months later, the ship returns to its homeland, and the hero, having presented the pharaoh with the rich gifts of the serpent, receives special honor and his new title. The protagonist, the navigator, returned home and gave the king all the gifts from the island. So the king, the pharaoh, makes him an attendant, a worthy attendant, and gives him slaves. The tale ends with the nomarch telling the narrator, the protagonist, do not make the excellent, that is, do not act arrogantly, my friend. Why give water to a goose, literally a bird, at dawn before its slaughtering in the morning? What a cynical person he was, this nomarch. What I can tell you is this: to this day, it remains a mystery from which collection the papyrus came to the Hermitage, and it is unlikely that it will ever be revealed, except that the tale is not a fake, and Golenishev knew what he studied. Vladimir Semyonovich Golenishev himself believed that the paleographic analysis of the work allows him to put it on a par with the Berlin manuscript about the travels of Sinuhe. The papyrus with the teachings of Ptahhotep, and they all came from a library found by Egyptian peasants in the Kurna area and dispersed to various collections. In 1912, a complete publication of the papyrus was published with a hieroglyphic translation and various commentaries. In 1913, the first and the last phototypic copy of the papyrus was published, where 8 sheets of the tales were reproduced. Unfortunately, after looking more than that, after more than 100 years, the papyrus has not been completely republished, which simply needs to be done. Apparently, there was an attempt by someone named Maximov to publish the papyrus and his studies of its contents, but the twists of fate did not allow him to finish what he had begun. Very interesting story, and as many things related to ancient Egypt, there are enigmas, mysteries, and questions. That's what I wanted to let you know today. I have quite a lot about reptiles, including the intelligent ones, in my channel, and you can find, just go into the playlists or do the word search, India, ancient Russia, and modern too, China, Egypt, also other places on this planet. I've done some research too. I hope you like this story and my research, and if you like my research and support, you can do so through the links you find in the description to this channel. And I will bring you more interesting tales of the ancient world and mysteries. And the question of the reptiles, about their intelligence, I think you will like my other videos. You can answer for yourself. Thank you for your attention to my work. Please subscribe to my channel and like my videos.